Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thank you as always for tuning back in. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Layla, the Lenormand reader, and I focus almost exclusively on the amazing Lenormand deck. So be sure to have a look at all of the links and resources that I have for you so you can get into this amazing deck. Welcome to a new Pick-A-Card reading. I'm happy to be doing a new one today. I don't do them as often as the forecast videos. I tend to notice that people prefer the forecast videos, but every so often I like to do a Pick-A-Card reading. So here we are with a new one today. The focus for today is on love, and the question is if there will be a new relationship in the near term. Now, in previous Pick-A-Card readings, when I focused on love, I would make an allowance for an interpretation for people who are already in a relationship versus those who are not. Today, I want to focus more on those who are single or who are looking to move on from a relationship and are wondering about a new relationship, and not so much about folks who are already in a relationship. Still, if you are guided into this reading, if you want to resonate with it somehow, I suggest that you sort of interpret the reading for your relationship in terms of how it moves forward. And of course, leave me a comment if you want. I'll be happy to answer your questions. So here's the setup. We have 3 charms, so we're going to do 3 different readings, and you might want to pause the video if you like to tune into which charm you want to resonate with for this reading, and you'll find the timestamps in the description box. And we have 3 different decks, and we're going to use all 3 in each of the readings. So this is a 3D reading. As you know, I like to do them for the Pick-A-Cards. They've worked really well with Pick-A-Cards, and I'll be doing a 3D line of 7 today. So these are the 3 charms. This is the scissors charm, and this is the coin or ancient looking coin, and this is the dice charm. So again, if you want to think a little bit about which one, you know what to do. You can pause the video and find your timestamp, and I will see you in your reading. Okay, scissors group, let's start with you. We are doing a line of 7, a 3D line of 7. I want you a bit closer. And we are starting with the game of hope. So let's go ahead and deal out the first cut, the first layer of the line of 7. Okay, scissors group, here is your first line. So it's very clear that there is going to be an opportunity to meet someone. The flowers is lovely for this, and it's interesting that it comes after the book because the book is the card of the unknown. So we are looking at whether there's going to be a new love, and clearly with this pair there will be. And on top of this we have the beautiful clover. So this side here is very, very positive. It points to a new opportunity with someone. There is a flirting element that is very clear in the cards. And I have to emphasize this, scissors group. The flowers tend to be more on the flirty side. So it's not about the longer term commitment, you know, the dedication and all of that. It's more the playful side. It can be really good physically, and it has a strong flirty aspect. And with the clover, it's very clear that there is an opportunity ahead. Now we have the interesting scythe in the middle of the line. The scythe can be a difficult card. You know, it tends to be associated with severance and things like that. But it's really not the case in here. Instead, the element of change and suddenness that is also associated with the card comes out more. And we see it with the clover, and I tend to read this as a lucky break. Now we have the fish and the garden, but then we have the fox. So up to the fox, things are looking good. I have to say, scissors group, that the fish can add to the sexual, sensual element of a relationship. So like we said earlier, with the flowers, there is that element that seems to be at play. And with the garden here, this is the card of places and meetings and get-togethers. So obviously, you could be dating and meeting someone or getting together with this person. So very clear that someone seems to be lined up for you, scissors group. Now on the other side of the garden we have the fox, and the fox is tricky. It is not ideal in a relationship. It tends to suggest someone who is half-hearted and someone who is a bit materialistic. And honestly, with the fish, this is very likely scissors group. So it can suggest that there is fun, there are good times, but it's not so much a relationship that leads to a commitment or something serious. Now, if this is what you're looking for, well, that is totally fine. But at least this is what we're seeing in the first cut in here. I do want to caution you a little bit about the fox because it can suggest someone who's a bit of a user, like I said, this materialistic element. But again, if you're okay with that, if that's what you're after, then it might be a really good thing going on for you. But I think from this first line, we can say that someone is ahead for you. So pretty straightforward cards, I have to say, and really nice. This pair here that really answers very tightly to the question. So let's move on to line number 2. Let's move on to Titania's deck. Let's see. Does it add to that? Does it detract from it? Okay, so very powerful line here. It answers a direct yes, like we could just stop there. Yes, you're going to meet someone. We have all around success cards. We have no negative cards. The bird can be a bit anxious, but obviously on these, between these two, we're not seeing that. So the key, the sun, and the star are 3 of the strongest wish fulfillment cards in the deck. On top of this, we have the tree and key figuring together, and I take this combination to mean achieving a very important goal, which in the context of our question is meeting someone. And we have, on top of these beautiful cards, we have the child, which points to someone new. So here you go. It directly answers with a yes. We also have the woman, which is a relationship card. Whether you are the woman, the other person is the woman, whoever they are, it doesn't matter. It clearly represents a new relationship and a new beginning. Now, this is a much better line than the first one. And the first one wasn't even dramatic. You know, it wasn't challenging. It answered positively. But this line is just filled with colorful messages of positivity. We have the bird here, which points to usually conversations and communication. And in the context of the question, it clearly points to some interaction. So clearly pointing to this new relationship that we see coming through. Again, a very clear line, answers very directly. Nothing to try to decipher in here because it's so clear. Very clearly answers with a positive yes that you will be in a relationship, in a new relationship. And like I said, this line is much stronger than the first one. Whereas the first line had the fox that put into question how this relationship moves forward, if it's, you know, beyond flirting and things like that. This line is much brighter for something more serious, if you like, for something more loving, more deeper, more genuine. Definitely these cards are much warmer than the first line. And again, the first line was okay. It wasn't a challenging line. So a very clear and a very beautiful message here. Let's move on to line number 3, and then we'll turn to the triplets. And honestly, it's easy to interpret these cards because they're so clear. Like I said, they don't need deciphering. Let's see what this line says. Okay, now this line is more challenging, but the clover and bear, they're two, well, the clover is a very, very bright card. And with the bear, this can be pretty significant in terms of relationship. Very interesting what's happening here. There is a clear ending, and I mean, there's no way around this. We have the anchor, the whip and coffin is definitely an ending. The anchor here makes this ending certain, and it encourages you or the other person to bring something to an end. The stork here points to a change, and a liberation of sorts. And I think this is going to line up really well with the scythe as the first card in this triplet. And then we have a bit of a confusing phase or some clouds here that cover off, you know, a little bit the situation here or the change. But then we have the beautiful clover and bear. So the clover really helps overcome the issues here. And it's really nice to see it on the later part of the line. And also the clover and clouds tends to suggest not having negative thoughts, not having doubts. And then at the end of the line, we have the bear, which is a very powerful card for in terms of strength. So I feel that this is a card that can help solidify the relationship more than the previous cards. So what could be going on here? Honestly, Scissors Group, I am very much suspecting that this person could be leaving a relationship. It's possible that they were tied down with their ex or with someone else. And we see a very clear ending that sort of liberates them here. But then there could be a bit of a cloudy phase where perhaps you're doubting if they've completely released this past situation. And with the clover and bear, I think you can achieve a sense of confidence and assurance that the past is gone, the past is finished, and you can move forward into this relationship. You can explore it further. I'm not seeing, again, long-term commitments. I'm not really seeing them. I'm seeing brighter prospects than the first line for this. But we're not seeing something like the ring and lily, the ring and tower and things like that, cards that indicate a commitment. Obviously, that shouldn't be surprising, and it's fine because it is a new relationship and we have confirmation in the cards that it is a new relationship. So it's okay. But there are really bright prospects. There is an interesting thing that needs to be completed and finished off. And then you can move forward. So I would say this is a yes. Yeah, definitely. There's a new relationship in store for you, Scissors Group. Let's look at the triplets. Starting with the first one here on the left, we have the book, tree, and anchor. This tells me, Scissors Group, that it could be a while longer, a little bit longer, before you meet someone. The tree is also a card of solitude in a good way, but it's still a card of solitude. And the book is also a card of the unknown. The anchor is sort of having to wait this out, being still with this. So I feel these cards are telling us that it could be a while before you meet someone, but it's good. It's good, enjoy the process, enjoy your time, do the things you enjoy while you attract this relationship. In the second triplet, what do we have? The flowers, the key, and the whip. Now that's interesting because it really helps lighten up the whip a little bit. So when we see the whip in the bottom row with the influence of these two here, I feel that it can help lighten up a little bit the normally dramatic effect of the whip. And also, because we suggested in the bottom line that this person or your prospective relationship here could be releasing another relationship or maybe releasing something else. And it's really nice to see the flowers and key because it's like there's a relief that they're going to end it with the other person. They're going to move on from that phase that could be maybe preventing them from engaging fully in the relationship with you. So I take these cards to really help with the effect of the whip here, with the role it plays in these cards. The next one is the clover, bird, and coffin. This suggests the same thing. The bird and coffin is this news of an ending, and with the clover, it's like there's a relief. It's like, oh, great. This is good news, news of the ending. So I like this. I think it's tight, and I think it works harmoniously together here. So good news that there's an ending that this person is going through, and it creates this liberation here that we see in the center. These are the central cards, and the Scythe, Sun, and Stork is definitely a severance that creates liberation, a release that creates freedom, and this is a very happy moment, a very happy change. The Scythe and Stork is definitely about change. There's no two ways about this. And the Sun is one of the brightest cards of the deck. So it creates this happiness around this change. And notice how well it works with this. We have these very bright cards, the flowers and the key, and the lovely clover that suggests the news of the ending is good. So it's like there's a sigh of relief when you find out that this person is going to move on, either from a past relationship or from a situation that is blocking them or maybe affecting the relationship prospect with you. Now, the next one is the Fish, Child, and Clouds. This is an interesting combination. The clouds can make things a little bit complicated. And again, it's like there is like a lingering doubt or some question marks around moving forward in this relationship. And the fish, again, has that element of the physical when it comes to relationships, but sometimes it can be associated with dreams and ambitions, and you could be wondering if this is the right one for you. So it comes after this episode. It doesn't necessarily have to be so sequentially ordered like that. That's not how we read the cards. It tends to be a flow. But I feel that the liberation here that we talked about does help moving forward in this new beginning. But still, you could still have some question marks about this, which I think would be pretty normal. Now we have the Garden and the Woman and Clover. This is definitely about getting together and a meeting, and obviously it goes really well. And it's not just a single meeting, it's not like a day-to-day reading what we're doing. We're asking a bigger question. So I think you'll find that the times together, the time you spend with this person is gonna be fruitful. It's gonna be nice. It's going to be beautiful, and it is going to be reassuring in the sense that the question marks here, the doubts, the issues that came to pass, I think are going to be resolved. And like I said, in the bottom line here, the Clover and Clouds is a clear combination. It's a specific combination that suggests not thinking negatively, and not indulging in negative thoughts. So I think this is definitely going to help overturn or iron out the remaining doubts. At the end here, we have the Fox, Star, and Bear. I appreciate this combination because in the same way that the Clover helps overcome the clouds in that sense, iron out the doubts, the Star helps iron out the doubts that the Fox can bring as well. And the Bear is quite powerful because it suggests that this could be a really important relationship. I'm not so sure how lasting it is or how far into the future it goes. That's not what we're asking. We're not asking about the longevity of the relationship. We're asking if there's going to be a new relationship. And I think it's pretty clear that there will be for you, Scissors Group. So this is a really beautiful reading. Before we close, I want to just double check the doubles and triples. I think we got the Clover twice. Yes, we get the Clover twice. I think it's the only card that shows up twice, right? And finally, the Fox and Star. Yep, the Clover is the only card that shows up twice, which is, it's like calling our attention to it. And the Clover is one of the luckiest cards of the deck. So in tandem with the main messages here, I think we can take away, Scissors Group, that you're in for a new relationship. We also have some interesting details about things going on in this as you move into it. Mainly this ending that needs to happen first, that needs to happen pretty much first to liberate you, the other person, to engage in this new relationship. Now, I did say that I felt it's about the other person, but you know what, Scissors Group, maybe you're the one who's releasing a relationship. I mean, I don't have a reason to dismiss this scenario. If you need to release this relationship or whatever situation that could be holding you back from engaging in a new relationship, then you have a clear confirmation from the cards and a clear encouragement from the cards that it's a good idea to release this, move on, set yourself free, and discover, explore, and move into this new relationship that proves to be, I think, fulfilling. So lovely cards, Scissors. I'm happy this is a positive answer to this question. I look forward to your thoughts and comments as always. If you're willing to share details, it's always nice to read them. Very best of luck with this. I wish you the best with it. Until next time, as always, thank you for tuning in and take very good care of yourself. Welcome to your reading, coin group. Let's go ahead and deal the first line and see if you are in for a new love relationship. Okay, coin group. Here is your line of 7, and I have to say right from the get-go that it doesn't look like you are in for a new love relationship. You know, when I was dealing out these cards, I was thinking, well, 3 lines of 7, that's plenty of cards. It's possible that the message is going to be a yes for a lot of the time. But honestly, Lenormand never ceases to surprise. We have a lot of cards in here that are not pointing to a relationship and that are instead pointing to a time on your own, other considerations at play for you. There could be a job element here that could be a priority for the time being. Let's back up to the beginning of the line. So it starts off with a challenging card, the clouds. There is here a sense of confusion, but with the mountain, I think it's really a sense of stuckness. The stork on the other side of this is actually quite welcome because it suggests that you could move past the blockage or the stuckness. But because the rest of the line is not really leading to a relationship, doesn't bring up any warmth, any relationship at all, I think that the message here, coin group, is that there can be a thing that keeps you stuck, and that this needs to be resolved first in order to make room for a relationship down the line. We have the cross in the middle of your line, and the cross is quite an interesting card. Lots of layers. It points to matters of destiny, but can also suggest burdens, and it also involves life lessons and deeper elements at play in your life. It's also the card of karma as far as I'm concerned. So it sounds like there needs to be a release, a letting go of something, of an obstacle that is blocking you, and that needs to be assimilated. And this will help you down the line to open up to a relationship. Now in this side we have the fox and lily, and then the book. So the book wraps up the line, and the book tends to be a card of closeness, closure. So it's not something that opens up to a new beginning. It's something that remains closed. The fox is a tricky card normally. It can be about someone deceptive, half-hearted, self-interested. It can also point to a trap. And the lily is a card of potentially career. It's also a slower card. Now in relationships, the lily is quite good, but it is not, we're not seeing relationships in this line. Otherwise, it would have suggested a committed relationship, but we don't have the cards around it to suggest that. Instead, the lily is a slower card, and it can point to a sense of somewhat solitude because it tends to be more experienced and more quiet. It represents someone who's a bit more senior, so it doesn't have the bubbly energies, that come with meeting someone new, enjoying a new relationship, and things like that. So the energies aren't there. So these cards clearly suggest that you're still in a state of closure, and so in answering the question directly, it doesn't suggest that you're in for a relationship. The fox and lily are both work-related cards as well. And the fact that they show up together can highlight this area for you. And what this means in the context of our reading is that perhaps your current focus is on your work life, your job, other practical areas in your life. You could be preoccupied with them, possibly in connection with the cross. And so maybe you're not in the right state of mind to attract a relationship just yet. The book on the other side of the lily can also point to work projects involving research, knowledge, education, writing, potentially creative ventures as well. And so maybe your mindset and your attention and your overall energy is taken up by other priorities right now, coin group. And the cards could also be advising you to work on these things and get them out of the way before you consider a relationship. Now, I do think that the other lines that we're going to draw could, just by virtue of the random and by virtue of having just 36 cards in the normal, they might suggest a relationship. But I have to say, coin group, that even if they did, this line is quite tight, in terms of not suggesting a relationship. There is nothing that suggests a new relationship here. And so it's going to affect the rest of the reading, and I think it would have almost a trumping effect. Let's deal out the next line and see what else we get. Okay, so again, yes, we have the dog and child, but we wrap up with the clouds. We have the mountain in the middle and the snake in the cards. So you could meet someone, but it's not a new relationship. And there's going to be some doubts around it. We also have quite a lot of suggestion here that point to, well, again, this blockage, or it's not really opening up to a relationship as much. Now, the clover is a really bright card, and it can suggest that you don't have to worry about this. It's okay, it's not a good or bad thing whether you're in for a new relationship or not. The question, as it were, is neutral. Of course, if you desire a new relationship, then this line might be a bit disappointing. But the clover is here to really support you with that. Now, the snake and moon would be a combination of deception. The mountain is, again, the idea of a blockage. Sometimes I read the mountain as suggesting a place abroad, but in this context, I'm not seeing it this way. This is more about, the obstacles, like we saw in the top row, this idea of coldness. In relationships, the mountain is a bit cold. So there is a sense of distance. And I think, coin group, that maybe your heart is not really in a new relationship right now. And if you don't see it this way, sometimes things happen in a deeper level within us that affects our energy. And maybe we're not aware of it. So clearly, from this first part here, it's not really open to a new relationship. The snake is a bit deceptive. With the moon, it can be the dark side of the moon. With the mountain, it's an obstacle. It's like it's not really moving. But again, the clover suggests that that's okay. Now, on the other side, we have the dog and child, and that clearly points to a new relationship. Now, we have the clouds at the end here, so it doesn't really pick up, especially since the line is well established with these cards. It doesn't really pick up into a relationship. There are question marks. And in this sense, if we back up to these cards, this can suggest someone a bit like someone like a charmer. So this could be someone not genuine. And I think you could sense that and sort of block it, like you're not going to be open to it, as you shouldn't. Now, on the other side, or on the flip side, or in another scenario, maybe you're not really open, and I think that the first line established that pretty clearly. And so the relationship that comes through is actually going to answer to your energy, coin group, and I talk about this a lot in my affirmations podcast, which I encourage you to tune into. The energy, the vibe that you put out there attracts certain similar vibes. That's what it means to be on the same wavelength. You cannot but be on the same wavelength around the things around you, with the things around you, because that's what you're attracting. So we're seeing this vibe in you, coin group, and if it's going to attract something, it's going to attract something a bit, shaky. Now, on a more positive note, if we, I don't think the reading is positive or negative, but in terms of attracting in your relationship, maybe it happens a lot more slowly for you, where you take your time to get to know a person. I suspect issues of trust or being trusting of others. I wonder if you could be in a state or in a phase of feeling defensive. I wonder if that's putting off the vibe and it's not attracting what you think you want or what your mind wants, because on that level there is like something closed, something defensive. And in the top row we saw actually this clear message of the need to think about this, the need to release a certain stuckness, and that could go quite deep, because of the cross. So there can be some inner work for you to do, coin group, if you want to attract a relationship. And at the same time, maybe this is where you need to be, maybe this is where it feels right for you to be. And again, the clover, I think, has a softening message here. I don't want you to make yourself wrong or to think that, how you feel is wrong or where you're at is wrong. It's not about being wrong. It's about your journey, and how you want to go about it. And so this could be a time when you become more aware of how you feel about a new prospect, what is going on within you that could be preventing that. Are you genuinely in the mood of a new relationship right now? Are there other things that you could be focusing on that are more important now, and that if you dealt with, you can create more clarity and a clearer path and a more open path to attract someone in a very simple way? You just free yourself up, to be in a relationship. Take care of that stuff first and then be in a relationship. So the second line is again not so great for a new relationship. It points to a new friendship possibly, but with the clouds at the end of the line and in view of the earlier cards, never mind the first line, I'm not so sure it materializes into a love relationship or what we're talking about here. Let's move on to line number 3 and see what else comes up. Okay, coin group. These are great cards for a relationship. And I was turning the cards one by one, and then the mountain and ship came up. So we have the mountain 3 times, right? Yeah, that's quite a message. We'll talk about the triplets and the duplicates at the end. Let's look at this line. So this is great for a relationship right here. We have the dog and ring into the birds, and actually the dog and ring is relationship that comes out of a friendship, which I really appreciate, because in the line before it, we said a friendship is more like at hand, more what's in process, and then we had the clouds that sort of rocks the boat. And then the dog and ring is a relationship, like a love relationship coming out of a friendship. So again, this scenario of the whole thing taking more time for you is clear. This is a unique aspect of your reading. The anchor is great. The anchor puts a relationship on a solid footing. It points to trust. It points to confidence. And then we have the bird in the middle. I'm already peeking at the triplet. Um, the bird is a card of conversations. It's good at vocalizing things. The garden is also great for get-togethers. And then the mountain and ship. Now, I'm not really, I would have liked them not to be there if we wanted a relationship. Now, I can read them as suggesting that you take a trip somewhere together. Um, you know, that's possible. I can't dismiss this altogether, but I'm not inclined to suggest that this is the main or the more likely scenario coin group. I'm not inclined. The mountain is also a card of obstacles. We got it 3 times. And the ship, it's adventurous and things like that, but it does, the line wraps up with the ship, and the ship is a travel card. It's a card of movement. So again, I'm not seeing that at the end of the day it sticks so much. The relationship, I don't feel, sticks that much. We have lots of cards across the 3 lines that point to not so much. Yes, these are great cards. Yes, the anchor is lovely for putting the relationship on a sound footing, but it doesn't really stick. The ship sort of carries away, and the mountain, it sort of creates an obstacle. And on top of that, all of the other cards in the line. So I think you could enjoy some relationship coin group. I think you could meet someone, you could explore the prospect, but I cannot, in all honesty, in all integrity, suggest that it sticks. It's more like something you explore. And I think coin group, the relationship, this relationship, it does something else to you. I think there is inner work for you, in the coming phase. It's more about you and what you want and your openness and your direction. And I think the relationship will mirror that. And once you assimilate that, I think it sort of changes. These things happen. So overall, coin group, I'm not inclined to say that there is a love relationship coming up. There is some relationship that you explore that could feel good, but again, I cannot really suggest that it sticks. And that's neither good or bad. Let's agree on that. So let's look at the triplets. The clouds, clover, and anchor. That's nice. So again, this element of something going on within you that could be affecting the vibes you're attracting, we see it here. The clover and clouds is a specific combination that suggests negative thoughts and the advice of not allowing negative thoughts to get to you. The anchor is nice in here because it suggests a sense of confidence, but I think also in the context of this question and in view of everything else we read, I think it's also about what you want, where you stand, and avoiding that sense of wobbliness, So there can be some hesitation that is unnecessary, coin group, and the key is really to find yourself, to find your ground, where you stand right now. And I think having that foundation will help. The next one is, so the mountain, snake, and dog. So that's not great for a relationship. The snake is tricky, to say the least. But something else that comes to my mind is a third party. It is the card of cheating when it comes to relationships. But on top of this, we have it with the dog. So it can represent a person. And on top of this, it's with the mountain. And I read the snake and mountain as suggesting going around an obstacle, but in a negative interpretation, it suggests something going behind your back. And we have the dog. So this can be This can be either an illicit affair, or there's something fishy going on, or it's in a simpler way. It's not really genuine. It's like, you know, it's not real. It's not really authentic. So these aren't great. Now here, the stork, moon, and ring, on the other hand, is quite lovely. It's an invitation, a proposal. And in relationships, it would be like asking to date someone or asking to be with someone. So yeah, I think a relationship is at hand. But again, I'm not sure it sticks. We have lots of cards that put pressure on the prospect, and not in a great way. Now, the cross, mountain, and bird is another one of those combinations that have to do with your path, a sense of inner guidance, a sense of what you want, where you stand. The thing about the birds here, which is often about conversations, and yeah, it can suggest an important conversation, but I think that more deeply than this, I think something needs to be thought out, as in thought, as in not cold, as in warm up. There are these blockage elements that we see in the lines pretty clearly, and I think that it can have to do with how you feel, a sense of wobbliness. The bird can also be a little bit all over the place, So I think that you will need to center yourself a bit more, coin group, like find yourself, be clear about what you want and sort of relax in that in order to open up to a relationship. I really think there is a path, inner path, that is an undercurrent to this. And the cross and mountain is actually a pair that can suggest an important phase that is opening up for you. But with the bird, there's a bit of an anxious element here, and the other cards. So I think this is more about you, what you want, where you stand. There's also maybe a bit of an inner dialogue here that you could examine, how you feel inside. The next one is the fox, dog, and garden. Wow. So that's like, how we have the snake and dog. Here we have the fox and dog. And again, that is not so great, coin group, I have to say. With the garden, there can be meetings, get-togethers, and you could be dating. But again, the fox is someone who is half-hearted, who is a little bit deceptive. The fox is not as toxic as the snake, but it has a similar intent, and we're seeing both of these combinations here. So we have the dog twice, and when it shows up in these triplets, it shows up next to these challenging cards. So again, I'm not convinced this is a relationship that sticks or that works out for you. Now, the lily, child, and mountain is a really beautiful combination because it points to a new chapter, a new phase, and probably one whose importance you do not yet know. Quite amazingly, the child and mountain is the same as the cross and mountain. So again, I think the inner work and in your path is priority. And I think this relationship, short-lived or whatever it may be, is part of the signs, the experiences that help you think about what you really want and the path ahead. So for you, coin group, the work is much deeper than just being in a relationship. Something else is happening for you, and it's quite important. At the end, we have the book, clouds, and ship. And quite plainly, it's not clear where this is going. So the clouds is a bumpy ride with the ship. With the book, it's about unknown factors, confusion, lack of clarity. So the direction here is not clear. It's bumpy, and so again, coin group, I don't think it sticks. I don't think it holds. In all probability, it doesn't last. If there's a relationship, I'm not so sure this is. Well, I'm pretty sure actually. The cards are really clear. I don't think this sticks, coin group. I think you could maybe explore some prospects here, but you're not really settled on this, and there's more going on for you that needs exploring, that needs to be figured out for your path, maybe your work, other direction kind of flows in your life that you need to focus on. And so the relationship doesn't stick, and it's not gonna, it doesn't look like it goes in a direction that you want it to. And that is fine. That is fine. I think the lessons and the inner guidance and this life mirror that you experience with this relationship is more important. So do focus on that. And yeah, it's totally okay to look at what's going on around you relationship wise, your experiences in life, as a mirror for you to look inside and to see where you're stuck, what needs to be resolved, what is the direction that is coming through. Clearly this is taking priority over a relationship, and the relationship is a bit like a stepping stone, or like something you use in order to gain that kind of insight, which, like I'm saying, is totally fine. So coin group, this is quite, I'm quite amazed, because I was thinking that, well, definitely there's going to be, a relationship will come up. There's lots of relationship and positive cards in the Lenormand deck, but you see these combinations, they come through, and, there's a flow in the line, and no, you can get a pretty clear message, and a unique message as well. So coin group, very interesting reading. Let me know how you feel about this inner work, and let me know if you're too disappointed that I'm not really seeing a relationship ahead, and if there's one, it doesn't really stick. I certainly look forward to your feedback about this. Very best of luck with the coming phase. I hope you would take into consideration some of these ideas. I find them helpful, and they have depth that support the inner journey. So I look forward to your thoughts on this as well. Thank you as always for tuning in. Best of luck again, and until next time, take very good care of yourself. Okay, Dice Group, welcome to your reading. Let's go ahead and start with the first line with the Game of Hope here, the line of 7, and see if you are in for a love relationship. Okay, Dice Group, here is your first line, and we do kick off the line with the Whip. And what's interesting is that it's followed by the heart. And this is obviously a heartbreak. What is nice is the clover after it. And we also have the beautiful star at the end of the line. I have the impression, Dice Group, that at least some of you are overcoming or are still getting over a heartbreak. And it is really nice to see the clover here, because it would be a card of healing. The star is also a card of healing. Now, it's a little bit farther down the line. It's not really affecting this specific group here, but I do think that it affects the energy as a whole, and it is supported by these cards. So it can apply as well and really support the clover in this healing. Now, we see the woman right in the middle of the line, and this clearly represents a person, a relationship, and this can be you, yourself, or the other person. It doesn't really matter. And after the woman, we have the house and the coffin. Then the coffin and star. Now, the coffin is typically a card of endings. And we see it after the house. And I think that with the house here, this can suggest meeting someone, so the idea of a gathering. With the coffin, though, I'm not so sure it kicks off. But what I do think is also possible, and we'll confirm this with the other lines, Dice Group, is that the relationship might take a while to materialize, and it can be a while before you meet this person. However, with the star at the end of the line, you can be sure that your wishes are going to materialize. So yes, we do have the Whip at the outset, but I think the Whip is overcome, and it doesn't really play a role with the rest of the line. We do have the coffin, though, which can suggest a delay or a time apart, or a time when nothing much is happening before the relationship picks up. And it is really interesting that the coffin figures after these cards, because these cards clearly point to a relationship. So if we didn't look at anything else, this would be really supportive for a relationship. And it is 4 out of the 7 cards, so I do think that there are good prospects. It's just that with the coffin, there seems to be a delay, or it takes time. But what is also nice is that the star can suggest that it's for a good reason and that eventually your hopes and dreams materialize. So I would say, dice group, from this line, we are looking at positive prospects for a relationship. I really don't see why not. My deck is a little bit... So let's go ahead and deal the second line here and see what more we get. I do think it's a line that can do with additional insights. So let's go ahead and deal out line number 2. Okay, tricky line, tricky layout, tricky reading. So dice group, we have the woman again, which really confirms a person coming up. But we do have the snake in the middle of the line, and we see the snake next to the woman twice. I'm really inclined, dice group, to suggest that this could be an affair, or this person is still in a relationship. And maybe that's why there is the coffin in the top line. That can suggest that it takes some time for it to resolve. The line otherwise, these cards are quite supportive. We have the moon, which is a gentle, soft card with the fish and cross. I think this can be quite a lot of attraction. And, you know, with the moon and snake and the fish, which is also sensual and sexual, I think that here there is some kind of physical attraction that is quite powerful. But I still think that there's a strong reason to think that this could be a third party. This could be an affair, or perhaps the person is still involved in their relationship. The rest of the cards have also some things in common. The cross tower and the tree are cards of deeper aspects of our life. The cross and tower, and actually all 3 cards are pretty spiritual in character. The cross can be about decisions, and the tower and tree can be about the long term. So again, we're seeing a slowness in the cards along with the coffin. I think that there are prospects, but it's possible that because it seems to involve a third party, it's not, you know, it takes a bit of time for it to materialize. And you know what? The star and tree are good cards, but I'm still concerned about this central piece here, middle piece. So yes, I do think a relationship materializes, but it's going to take a bit of time for it to fall into place. And there can be a phase where you're not sure if you want to move forward with it. But I do think that there's a strong attraction element and a strong sensual element in the cards. I have to wonder, dice group, if the whole situation doesn't, like, you might think about if it aligns with your values. Can we say that? You know, I feel the cross, the tower, and the tree, they make you think a little bit about your priorities in life. And I wonder if this might not be something that you think about, like you're wondering if this is a good thing. And also, apart from this, you could be wondering if this is the right thing to do in terms of, you know, if it works for you, if it has longevity, if it has real prospects over the long term. So yes, I think there is a relationship, but there's quite a few question marks around it. You know, this thing here, this is something. This is really something. You know, the snake and woman twice. This really can highlight a third party. So I'm going to say yes, there is a relationship prospect for you, but there's some stuff going on around it that still needs to be resolved, and that's going to cause you to ask some questions and wonder if it is the right thing for you. I also think that in general, it unfolds slowly. So the snake in the middle is also slow. We have the coffin, the tower, and the tree. These are slow cards, and so it's not immediately that there's a decision about the relationship, or that it lands and that's it, you're in a relationship, you're together. No, it doesn't seem to unfold this way. There's an interest. There might even be some, like, a physical relationship here. But again, there are question marks about a third party and the longevity and the time it's going to take for these issues to resolve. So let's go ahead and deal line 3. Okay, so this is, wow, there's a lot going on here. So we have the cross a second time, and we have some really interesting messages here, but what we do have is the sun at the end of the line. And I'm already peeking at the triplets, but this is going to do well for the relationship. But the path to that is really convoluted. So backing up here, we have the dog and ship. So this is great for a relationship. A connection kicks off. The clouds is doubts. The anchor resolves the doubts along with the bear. And with the cross, there is like an important decision. And the sun wraps up the line in a very beautiful, wish-fulfilling way. So I would say yes, it is. I think the relationship materializes, but I have to say, Dice Group, that the path to that relationship is really something. It is layered. It is complicated. It seems to involve other people. It takes time. There could be question marks and doubts, whether from you or from the other person or both of you. But it does resolve successfully. The thing about the anchor and bear is that they encourage you not to give up on this. And I think there is like a connection. There's some kind of glue between you and the other person. And both of you are aware that, the way it needs to happen is, it's a little bit indirect. An indirect path to the goal of this relationship. So it's a bumpy ride, certainly with the clouds and ship. But the anchor and bear really help resolve this and bring the relationship on a solid footing. The cross can be challenging, like it is a little bit here, but it is also a card of things that are meant to be. And with the sun, I really feel that this brighter aspect of the cross can come through. The sun is one of the most positive cards of the deck, and we wrap up the whole 3D line of 7 with the sun. And we're going to see this triplet is really powerful. So I do think, Dice Group, that you're in for a relationship. But again, the pathway to that relationship is quite tricky and bumpy. And there's a few things around it that delay it or complicate it and cause some hesitation. So it's gonna take some commitment on your part to see this through. And of course, I'm not saying that you have to, but these are, this is the food for thought. So let's back up to the triplets now. We have the whip with the fish and dog. Now, honestly, in the context of our question, I really think this is like a sexual relationship. The dog is not so much about romance, but it sounds like there's like this arrangement or convenience arrangement, if you like. And this could be what's at play here. It can be a scenario where this is the relationship, and then you wonder if it becomes something more than that. That can apply. The second triplet here is the heart with the cross and ship. This is actually really beautiful for a relationship. It can bring in some heavy emotions, possibly, but there is a path ahead that opens, and the cross can make this important. So this can be an important relationship, and maybe that's the reason why you're willing to put up with it, put up with the question marks around it, the tricky situation around it. But more generally, this triplet is really beautiful in the sense that you are destined for love, and that you want to open up. You want to open up to this. Now, the ship can be a little bit open-ended in the sense that it's not really settled, but in this stage of the line, I do think, Dice Group, that it's about being open to meeting someone and also being open to the signs. I also think that it's a good idea maybe to lighten up a little bit, about relationships in general, and to just be open to an adventure ahead. And it is an adventure, to be honest. The clover, moon, and clouds It's a little bit bumpy. Obviously, the clouds can bring out the dark side of the moon, but the clover really encourages you not to indulge in negative thinking and not to dwell in these things, like avoiding drama and avoiding doubts and, these thoughts that can cause, those inner issues that actually end up materializing and externalizing. So the clover is really helpful with that, trying to balance out your thoughts, your doubts, and the question marks that you have about the relationship. Now, the woman with the snake and anchor, it can go in a couple of ways. Like we said, we have reason to think that there could be a third party. I mean, we see the snake and woman twice, and they are central. So that can be the case where maybe you are the third party, but you stick with this until the other relationship changes. That is possible. And in another sense, it can mean that this triangle is overcome. And a third way I can suggest to interpret these cards is that you are patient with it, and the snake is a card that is very good with knowing what you want, and it is not easily swayed away from its goals. And with the anchor, there is very much a support towards this idea that you don't give up on the goal, that you stick with it. It might be the indirect route, but eventually you achieve, your goal. It is definitely an indirect route in this relationship, dice group. It's, there's no two ways around that. Now, the woman, house, and bear, this can point to someone who is pretty important. Sometimes, these cards, the house and bear, can represent parents or, people who are senior and such characters. And we see these cards with the woman. So I wonder if this is the main relationship in contrast with the illicit relationship. Do you see what I mean? This could be, the connection they have, and this could be the outside connection. It could apply to you as well, dice group. Maybe you're the one who is looking outside. I can't dismiss the possibility of it going either way. So this is a key part of what needs to be resolved. Actually, the whole three middle triplets, they really focus in on this trickiness that we're seeing and what needs to be resolved. So there seems to be a triangle, there seems to be other relationships, there are question marks about the viability of all this, but it's going to take a bit of patience, and it sounds like it does materialize. The coffin, tower, and cross is very much a combination of things taking time, maybe more than you'd like. I associate the tower with a year or so, like that, those kinds of stretches. And the coffin really slows this down, and the cross, does not help this. So there are important decisions that need to be made for the long term. They're not resolved overnight. This could try your patience. But again, it looks like you are willing to be patient with it, along with the bear and cross in the third line. Now, the last triplet is lovely. The star, tree, and sun is all around wish fulfillment cards. So whatever it is that you want out of this relationship, it looks like you can achieve it. And why am I keeping it like this? Because I do think that we could potentially read the cards as suggesting that you move on from it and that it's actually liberating for you and is the right thing to do. I do not think this is the more likely scenario because of these cards and everything else. It's potentially possible. But this triplet is very beautiful for wish fulfillment and hopes materializing. We have two of the brightest cards of the deck. We have the star and the sun. The tree is also very positive. It is another card that can bring a bit of slowness. And so it's very clear that for your situation, dice group, the relationship unfolds slowly. So prepare for a bit of a stretch here. Now, what's really interesting is that most of your cards are either neutral or, there's a lot of, what I want to say is that there aren't that many bright and positive cards. We have the star and sun, we have the clover, and everything else is more or less neutral. And the moon, it's soft, the ship as well. The rest is sort of neutral, I would say, especially in the context of their combinations. So what really saves this reading, and what really suggests that a relationship materialize, I messed up the whole thing, is this triplet, because it is at the end of the line and it carries strongly positive cards. So that's where the story, the way the story unfolds, is that it's it's pretty windy and indirect and challenging and complicated and layered to get to the point where the relationship is bearing fruit and is solid and is a relationship. And we also have additional messages that help support this, mainly the central cards, which I think are pretty critical in here, and the anchor. So overall, dice group, I think you're in for a relationship, but really, it's an adventure, to get to this, and it's going to take a bit of time. I do think, though, you're committed, and you're like, I feel that you feel that it's going to work out, and that eventually, it will be what you want it to be. But you also know that, it's a bit of a stretch, or maybe this reading helps you figure that out. Now, like we said, we have the cross twice, and I think it's the only card that duplicates apart from the woman. And so this points to a sense of importance and decisions. The woman figuring twice next to the snake, I think, is a really powerful message. I don't think it's easy to overlook this and to think of it as just another combination. No, it sounds like there could really be a third party in the picture. And then remember, we saw the housewoman and bear, she could be like, the main partner, or the person who lives with that love interest. In contrast with the snake, that is the card of deception, in relationship. So it's hard to overlook what's going on here. It's hard not to see this as a strongly possible scenario. No matter, dice group, I think if you're willing to put up with this bumpy ride and layered, at times challenging path, it sounds like you can achieve this relationship. And these are my thoughts for you. I hope you have enjoyed this reading. Very, very interesting reading. I look forward to your thoughts, your feedback. Maybe you're already going through this. If so, I would really love your feedback. So best of luck with this, dice group. As always, thank you for tuning in. I do, again, look forward to your comments. I hope you leave me one or two. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, take very good care of yourself.